Manhattan residents and businesses are still trying to recover from Labor Day flooding.
And 17 years later, Manhattan and Americans are still remembering the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. That and more coming up on Channel 8 News.
A look at this weekend's forecast in Manhattan and at the State Fair in Hutchinson. More on later in the show.
This is KKSU-LD, broadcasting in high definition from Kansas State University, covering Manhattan, Riley County, and the Flint Hills. You're watching Channel 8 News.
Welcome, folks, to our very first Channel 8 News broadcast of the fall semester. I'm Chase Swenson.
And I'm Kylie White. In today's show, we have flood coverage of a week after Labor Day's disaster, and also a reflection of one of the worst tragedies on American soil, the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center.
Last week, Manhattan was hit with severe amounts of flooding, which left many residents without a home. In an effort to counter the effects of the flood, the Red Cross, as well as Manhattan community members, worked together to help each other out. I was able to chat with some of the folks on how they fought against the flood.
Labor Day is usually a time for rest and relaxation, but for some Manhattan residents, their three-day weekend was far from tranquil. Massive amounts of flooding took place in the Manhattan area, destroying many homes and local businesses. Among those victims was local resident Skylar Azane, whose house was destroyed in the flood. Skylar says one of the toughest aspects of the flood was the cleanup process.
And we had to wait for all the water to recede before we could even decide whether or not they could go back in and start cleaning it and stuff. It destroyed family pictures. It took out, huge pieces of furniture and stuff, so we had to go in and clean all that out.
Fortunately, the city of Manhattan was not alone in its cleanup efforts. The Red Cross showed up just in time.
Red Cross volunteers from all over the state of Kansas met right here in Manhattan, where they set up not only one, but two emergency shelters for victims of the flooding events that occurred last week, including this one here at Portage Hall. They had not only food and supplies, but also a place to rest.
The Red Cross set up two shelters, one in Portage Hall and another at St. Thomas More Church. Deb Tucker, a disaster manager, has been in charge of the Red Cross's efforts in Manhattan. One of the toughest aspects for her efforts has been finding a place for the victims to live during a game day weekend.
Great things are happening still in Manhattan. There's still a football game this weekend. We're excited about that. But because of all the hundreds, thousands of people that will be coming to Manhattan, there's not a lot of extra space for people who are now displaced. So we're working really hard to find places for them to be.
The Red Cross has plans for helping provide temporary residence for victims of the flood over the next couple weeks. But for now, Deb has only one request.
Pray for sunshine.
For more information on the Red Cross, you can visit their website at redcross.org. In addition to efforts done by the Manhattan community to fight against the flood, many residents have become victims of the damage. Here to share their story is Channel 8 reporter Logan Wassel.
September 3rd, 2018 wasn't just another typical Labor Day. For some Manhattan residents, it became a whole new world of hurt.
Then I looked outside and, all you could see was a river in your backyard.
Justin and Jillian Riley woke up early that morning to discover, well,
this is the flood of 2018.
Started at 4 in the morning. I heard car alarms go off. That wasn't really out of the ordinary. And that's when you, I think, looked outside and you were like, oh no.
The water was about to the top of my wheels.
This is the Riley's apartment complex parking lot. This time last week, behind me, this entire parking lot was completely covered in water, unrecognizable. The dumpster behind me was completely covered. You couldn't see it at all.
The thought crossed my mind to try to get out and drive out, but it was too much water and too dangerous.
The Rileys weren't the only ones affected by the flooding. Ben Sigel, co-owner of Manhattan Running Company, had to prepare for oncoming water as well.
We basically had a lake right outside our door here. We were able to get it sandbagged, then basically started receding at that point. We were only closed on that one Monday that we were going to be open, and that's it.
Other than that, we've been doing pretty good, and we're thankful to God. And if we get another flash flood warning on our phones, we need to get our cars out of here. So I'm definitely going to be more aware of that in the future.
From Manhattan, I'm Logan Wassel, Channel 8 News.
Even though the water receded in only a couple of hours, the Rileys say it was still enough to put them in the market for a new car.
We now go live to Channel 8 News reporter Zeb Willie, who's at Robbins Motor Company discussing the aftermath of the flood.
Thanks, Kylie. Now, as many people are aware, a lot of the flood damage is centered around Wildcat Creek, which is situated just 400 yards south of here behind Genesis Health Club. Now, a lot of the businesses across the street faced a lot of severe damage. A couple of restaurants, Golden Walk Buffet, and Los Cocos Mexican restaurant will not be reopening. A lot of the damage in Genesis Health Club was also apparent. I am here at Robbins Motor Company off of Anderson Avenue. I'm here with Clay Robbins, co-owner. Clay, why don't you walk us through a little bit more of the damage you guys received and what your experience was like that Monday morning?
Well, on Monday morning, I was texted by our general manager, Brady. The police had called our service manager and told them that Wildcat Creek was going to overflow. So I ran over here in a vehicle. By the time I got over there, the water was up to about the bottom of the vehicles. And I tried getting a couple of them. I came over here and got keys, but the water was a little too high. And I looked back towards the vehicle that I drove, and the water was getting up to that, so I figured it might be a good time to get out of there. The water went all the way to the top of the vehicles. Some of them were floating on other ones. So it was a total of 49 vehicles, and it was just under $2 million in damage. So it was quite a bit, but we still have a lot of vehicles. Everything over on this side of the street is dry. Our building wasn't affected at all, obviously. It was just across the street. But.
Okay, Clay, that's not the only bad luck you guys have had in the last week. Can you tell us a little bit more about the, I guess, robbery that happened last night?
Yeah, apparently 3 teenagers decided to take a few vehicles out for a joyride last night, and they broke into our shop, broke a window, went scavenging around, and found a few keys to a couple of vehicles here, and went out, took them for a joyride. But the police, they noticed somebody doing some donuts or something in a parking lot. They went over, investigated, and were able to apprehend them, and they recovered all vehicles already, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. So apart from that bad luck, what is your guys' strategy in the future to move forward from this?
Well, we're definitely not going to have any cars over there across the street anymore. We actually have another location on the west side or the east side of town that we're going to put a truck center over there, and then we can store our vehicles over there if we need to.
Now, as you know, a lot of the residential areas around here have received a lot of damage, and a lot of people probably lost their vehicles. Have you had anybody that has come in, trying to look for a new car?
Yes, I haven't been here the last few days, but I know last week we had a couple of people come in and buy vehicles that had lost their vehicles already.
Okay, sounds great. Clay, thank you for your time.
Welcome.
Yeah, back to you, Kylie.
Thank you, Zeb. Senator Jerry Moran came to Kansas State University to talk to Americans about how we must answer the call and how to serve the global society post 9/11. Moran said he felt more passionate now about the United States and serving Kansans post-terror attack 17 years ago. Moran said fixing and furthering foreign ally relations would be dependent on November's elections. As Moran concluded his Landon lecture, he told attendees that when 9/11 occurred, political parties were no longer mattered, which encouraged attendees and our future as a country to work together despite difficult events.
We're not a Republican from Kansas and a Democrat from New York, but we were just two dads in a moment where party lines and political posturing ceased. We were worried about our children and concerned for our nation.
Even after 17 years, wounds are still fresh from the attacks of September 11, 2001, when thousands of Americans were killed Tuesday night. Members of the Manhattan, Kansas community gathered to honor those who are gone in their namesake in New York City. Brianne Smith has more.
Well, we're all here to remember the service and the sacrifice of the first responders and the people that were killed in the Twin Tower bombings.
Colonel Roger Murdoch, current chief of the Kansas National Guard, says this year's Freedom Rally is a significant event for the Manhattan community. Murdoch, along with many others in attendance, are still serving in the military. However, each person at the rally was serving in his or her own way.
But it's important that as Americans, we understand that we have the opportunity to serve our nation, our state, our community in a variety of ways.
Nearly 2 decades after the attack that shocked America, dozens of Kansans gather here in Manhattan to reflect and lift each other up. Those who came to show their support at Sequel Park included Manhattan area citizens, along with the Manhattan High School Marching Band and the Flint Hills Children's Choir. Sydney Carlin, state representative, says that getting the children involved is essential.
Yes, and to bring awareness to young people of the magnitude of what happened and the need to protect ourselves from future problems and such as that.
To finish off the rally, a powerful moment of silence united the crowd among candlelight for those who have fallen victim to the tragedy Americans will never forget.
This is one of those things that you never forget, and no matter where you were when it happened.
Whether the event occurred in New York or in Kansas, people all across the nation will hold it in their hearts forever. In Manhattan, Breanne Smith, Channel 8 News.
It's great to see the Manhattan community come together with the youth almost 20 years after the tragic events in New York.
Coming up in the show, we'll see how students on campus can mellow out. And have you ever thought about adopting a duck? That and more when we return.
What ignites inspiration? It's sparked in every victory, every banner carried high. It's lit in traditions that bind each generation together. It's found in the people who push us to never settle and who serve those without a voice. It's iconic. It's groundbreaking. It's a new generation of world changers and answer seekers. What ignites inspiration? Tradition, passion, you. Land Grant University, entrusted with serving the needs of our communities and world through the nation's most important research and testing. We don't cater to what's popular. We come together to find out what's next, what will save lives and better the world. Since 1863, our values haven't changed, but our methods have. What defines a land-grant university? Community, progress, you. Knowledge is more than a piece of paper. It's being committed to leaving the world a better place, dedicated to limitless learning, conducting research that is tried and true, and then tried again, crossing disciplines, blazing trails, discovering better methods that lead to global solutions. What is the K-State graduate student experience? Unrestricted, proven, you.
The Nonviolent Studies program under the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, and Social Work is hosting a free daily volunteer-based yoga program that is open to the community, faculty members, and students. The field group meets in Ahern Field has daily chance to practice yoga and disconnect from their daily lives. Keep up with Facebook group K-State Noontime Yoga for schedules, cancellation, and updates.
Well, this was started by the Women's Nonviolence program, and I think it's been since about 2002, 2003, and it's a purely volunteer instructors, so we just go from noon, 12:05 to 12:50, so people can get back to their classes or whatever they need to do.
Have you ever wanted to own a duck? It's rubber, and you can't keep it. But if your duck is lucky, you may win a cash prize at the Boys and Girls Club's Little Apple Duck Dash. Rachel Hogan has the story.
The Boys and Girls Club of Manhattan serves nearly 900 school children in the Manhattan and Wamego area. One of these children is Autumn Sprague's daughter, Trinity. The club is one of a small number of affordable childcare options available to Sprigg.
I think it's good and, it helps low-income families that can't afford daycare. And so, with them having the scholarship program where it's only like $50 a semester, that's way cheaper than hundreds of dollars a month in daycare.
The club's executive director, Trent Jones, says fundraising is largely responsible for funding scholarships.
So our fundraising events really go to a special area of the club, which a lot of that supports our program scholarships, so it goes directly back to our families.
One fundraiser that supports the club is the Little Apple Duck Dash. This year, the Duck Dash will be held Sunday, September 30th in Seco Park. To support the Duck Dash, you can adopt a duck.
One duck costs $5 and will provide a week of healthy snacks for one child. At $25, 6 ducks will fund an annual team membership with a field trip. And at $50, a pack of 12 ducks pays for a semester-long after-school membership.
Ducks can be bought online, by mail, or at various local businesses. The ducks are only rubber and you don't get to keep them, but the winners of the first 3 ducks to cross the finish line will win cash prizes. So far, a little over 1,000 ducks of the 5,000 goal are claimed, but Jones is positive the goal will be met.
We're super hopeful the community can step up and help us promote the event, that we'll hit that 5,000 by September 30th this year.
In Manhattan, I'm Rachel Hogan, Channel 8 News.
The Little Apple Duck Dash will take place on Sunday, September 30th in Seco Park. The event begins at 1 p.m. For more information, visit duckdash.com/Manhattan. This summer may be coming to an end, but Kansans are still finding a way to enjoy their time in the sun. Stick around, more Channel 8 News is coming up.
The heart-pounding roar, a sea of purple, wielding twists and turns, a sincere smile, a simple phrase. Legacies that span generations, blurring the line between fans and family. Believing we bleed a different color. Foundations defined by a single stone. That special place you love full well. What makes traditions unforgettable? Loyalty. Purple. You.
I know a spot that I love full well.
'Tis not in forest, nor yet in dell. Ever it holds me with magic spell.
I think of thee, alma mater.
Carry thy banner high. Long, long, may thy colors fly.
Loyal to thee, thy children will swell the cry. Hail, 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 alma mater.
Hutchinson is hosting the annual state fair this week, attracting people from all around the state with everything from food to livestock judging. Here's Channel 8 reporter Ian Jacobson for more.
Every year, thousands of people flock to the fairgrounds in Hutchinson for the annual Kansas State Fair to enjoy food, fun, and the beautiful weather. Jennifer Bonowitz of Hutchinson says she and her family attend every year.
Just all the rides with the kids. We have 6 kids here with us today, so lots of family fun.
The state fair offers activities such as carnival games, art exhibits, and even has seasonal restaurants open like Russ and Annie's.
Annie was a huge, light, a wonderful person, full of laughter.
After Annie Sanchez, owner of the home-style food restaurant, recently passed away, friends and family of Annie, like Mary Labs, decided to keep the restaurant open in her honor.
She loved people. She made everybody she came in contact with feel special. Like they were the one and only person that she knew. That's just how she was.
Although there's plenty of fun and games to go around, for some, it's all about the competition. The state fair is also home to many livestock judging competitions, where people like Tanner Walden of Tonganoxie prepare his livestock year-round for the big show.
I'm here every year, and it's pretty much just a year-long thing that we do, and it takes all year to prepare, from getting those animals when they're babies, and then just working on them and getting them shown and ready for a year down the road to be successful.
This is Tanner's 6th year competing and says he looks forward to many more. In Hutchinson, Ian Jacobson, Channel 8 News.
The State Fair runs through Sunday at the State Fairgrounds in Hutchinson.
After last week's rain, I can't help but hope this week's sunshine continues.
Kylie, I could not agree more. Let's check in with our weather expert, Casey. Casey?
Thanks, guys. As we take a look at the weather, we're seeing some pretty consistent temperatures around the country. For the most part, up in the northwest corner, it's going to be in the mid-60s all day. And then down as you head south in the mid-80s. And then as we head over to the Midwest, it's going to be in the lower 90s for the most part throughout the day. And then obviously as you head east, it's going to be mid-70s, upper 80s, obviously down in the Carolinas where there's experiencing some storms. And as we take a look at Kansas, it's pretty consistent temperatures throughout the state, upper 80s, and then it actually kind of gets cooler as you head east, mid 80s consistently throughout the state, especially here in Riley County. And as we take a look at the 24-hour agenda, it's going to be in the mid 80s for the most part throughout the day, and then it will cool off tonight as it'll get into the mid 60s, and then tomorrow it's going to be right back up there in the lower 80s throughout the day. And then as a weekend forecast in Hutchinson for you guys going to the state fair this weekend, it's going to be hot. It's going to be lower 90s, upper 80s throughout the entire weekend. And then as we take a look at the 5-day forecast, it's still just going to be hot and sunny throughout the entire time. Lower 90s, upper 80s consistently throughout the week, but it also can cool down quite a bit as well. It can dip as low as the mid 60s consistently throughout the entire week. And then if we go day by day, Friday it could be in the lower 90s, Saturday upper 80s, Sunday once again is going to be upper 80s, and then mid 80s to mid 80s. And then consistently in the mid-60s.
Thanks, Casey. Folks, we're going to be checking out what's going on with both footballs at Kansas State after this break.
I know a spot that I love full well.
'Tis not in forest, nor yet in dell. Ever it holds me with magic spell.
I think of thee, alma mater.
We'll carry thy banner high. Long, long, may thy colors fly.
Loyal to thee, thy children will swell the cry. Hail, 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 alma mater.
Our community is more than a group of people. It's a place where the golden rule becomes the purple rule. It's recognizing the value of every individual and affirming the importance of diversity. It's freedom to have a different perspective. It's honesty underscored with understanding. It's becoming a piece of the greater good. We are many, we are one. Most of all, we are family. What defines the K-State community? Compassion, honesty, you.
Chase, what's been going on with sports lately?
Boy, howdy, Kylie. I'm going to be honest. I'm not much of a sports nut, so I don't keep up, but we do have our local expert, Amelia, here in the house. We're going to kick it over to her for sports.
Thanks, guys. Last Saturday, K-State football hosted the 18th ranked Mississippi State Bulldogs. After a Mississippi State field goal in the first quarter, K-State responded later in the quarter with a field goal of their own to tie the game at 3-3. With 2 minutes and 36 seconds left in the third quarter, Wyatt Hubbard made an amazing one-handed tip interception, running it back the other way for 11 yards. Immediately following the interception, Skylar Thompson makes a 23-yard pass to the end zone to Dalton Schoen. Unfortunately, the Wildcats started to find their mojo a little too late, losing the Bulldogs 31-10. Last Saturday's game became known as the K-State's worst loss since 2015's game against Oklahoma. K-State was outgained in the total yards by Mississippi State 213 to 538. This is what Bill Snyder had to say about the performance.
It was big, and what was the biggest part of it was that we moved the ball and didn't score, and that becomes an issue. And we had, we just had that issue we talked about a little bit ago. I mean, we ran the ball well, and when we tried to throw it, we just couldn't see out. It was just, the pressure was too close on the quarterback, and we couldn't find and we had open receivers, but we couldn't find them.
K-State's women's soccer is kicking in the season into gear with 3-2-2 record. Alex Kemp has more on what's ahead.
The team has set goals. Defender Haley Sutter tells us how they'll get there.
Some of the goals that our team has this season, obviously we want to try to make it to the Big 12 tournament. That was something we tried to do last year and we came a little bit short, so that's a big one for us.
Midfielder Laramie Hall tells us what sets them apart.
The aspects of the team this season that give us a cutting edge, I think, are experience on the field, because we have a lot of girls that have played before and that were here last year, and we have a lot of returners. Some of the things that we're focusing on improving upon are probably just playing out of the back and our passes just going where they need to go, and then our movement off the ball so that we're super dynamic.
The women's soccer team at Kansas State University has started the season off strong with the winning record of 3 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties against some tough competitors. The team has high hopes to continue to be successful throughout the rest of the season.
Overall thoughts on the team record. I think we are ahead of schedule. We have played some pretty good competition, competing against teams that either won their conference or made the NCAA tournament. So, we let some goals get away from us that would have allowed us maybe to get a little bit more points, but I'm pleased with our efforts and our record right now.
In Manhattan, this is Alex Kemp for Channel 8 News.
K-State Soccer is back on the pitch at the K-State Soccer Complex on Friday at 7 for the kickoff with the Missouri State Bears. Now back to Chase and Kylie.
Thank you, Amelia, for that sports update. We got a chance to talk with the Wildcat soccer team. I'm excited to see what the season has in store for them. We got a final weather report coming up after this break.
The limestone embedded in our history is the foundation of who we have become and what we can become tomorrow. We find inspiration in the past, new possibilities in our present, and anticipation for tomorrow's journey. Yesterday's triumphs are today's proud traditions. A transformation where a hall becomes a home, students become family, and research becomes reality. How do we build upon K-State's strong foundation? Innovation, collaboration, you. We may take different paths, but we all move forward, preparing for our future in the same historic library. We meet friends in the bustling student union and experience the exciting atmosphere of campus events. We appreciate individual interests and shared passions. Many different paths, one distinct destination. How does campus life become life experience? Connections, involvement, you.
I'm Ngọc Trân from Đà Lạt, Vietnam.
I'm Raphael from St. Mary's, Kansas.
Mình nói cả tiếng Việt và tiếng Anh.
I only speak one language, unless you count Pig Latin. Oh, you don't? Okay, one language.
I'm new to K-State and want to experience everything I can in Manhattan.
I'm hungry. Do you want to go eat some ice cream?
Sure.
Become an international buddy today and develop new friendships and experience different cultures.
How do you say Wabash in your language?
What's a Wabash?
Casey is back to give us one final look at weather for the weekend. What does the weather forecast look like for us here in Manhattan and anyone going to the State Fair in Hutchinson?
Thanks, Kylie. Yeah, it's going to be pretty hot, especially here in Manhattan. It's going to be in the upper 80s to lower 90s consistently throughout the weekend, especially with more of a peak on Saturday and consistently throughout the weekend. And then once we go to... And then once we hit Sunday, it will cool off a little bit, dipping down into the mid-upper 80s. And then over in Hutchinson, it's going to be about the same, lower 90s, upper 80s throughout the weekend.
All right, Casey, thank you for that little weather report. That's all the time we have for this week.
Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
This is Channel 8 News.